And here is a little treat, a tease from the 19-year-old kid, who's now a 21-year-old kid, or as some prefer, a young man. This was just part of an informal chat with no intention to publish to the public, but I thought it was such a beautiful recap of his old testimony. And for those who miss the old testimony, may this suffice. He is in the midst of manifesting even more grand things, and when he's ready, he'll share those things here, and perhaps on his own channel, which I will link everything here when the right time comes. And now, in his own words, in his own voice.
It was in December of 2019. I really wanted an iPhone, but my parents couldn't afford to get me one, and I couldn't afford to get one. So I tested out this law. But what I did was I went to the store with my brother, to a physical store, and I pretended like I was going to buy an iPhone, right? But I wasn't doing that as an imagination thing. I genuinely wanted to pretend to the guy that I want to buy an iPhone so he could let me touch it, so I could study its texture and how it feels and how it looks. And then I was like, okay, I'll see you next week or whatever. And then I went back home, and this time I knew what an iPhone felt like and looked like and all that stuff, and I specified the color and everything. And then I started to do this imaginal exercise where every night when I went to bed, I fell asleep unboxing my iPhone. I would go to bed unboxing it, and I would fall asleep unboxing it, feeling the charger, feeling the weight, seeing the color. I was mainly focused on the sense of touch and sight. And I did this, right, every night. And then about 2 weeks later, after I started to do this, that's when, I got the call from my school that the University of Toronto would like for us to nominate someone for a scholarship. So we're just going to send you a private link so you can answer some questions. And okay, I answered some questions, and then they were like, do an interview. I did an interview, and then they were like, okay, you will know the results in 3 months. So in March, you will know if you got in or not, or April, in 4 months. And then 4 months later, boom, I got the scholarship. And then they disclosed to me after I got the scholarship that we're going to give you this amount of money. We're going to give you all this money for you to buy textbooks and stuff like that. And I was like, okay. But at the time in my mind, it hadn't registered in my mind that, dude, you can use this money to buy your iPhone. I was just like, okay, cool. And then a few months later, I got to Canada. They gave me my money. And then a friend of mine from the university told me yo, you don't have to buy these books, right? You can just find them online for free. And I went online and I found them all for free. And so the textbook money, which I was supposed to use to buy the books, I didn't need to use it anymore. And so when I got to Canada, I just had the idea yo, let me just use this for the iPhone. And then I went online to go look for the iPhone, and that was the only one remaining in stock, and it was on special. So I got it at a lower price. And here's the thing. Every semester, the scholarship would give me textbook money. So every semester, I would be getting money I wasn't using. So I was taking that money and using it to pay off the iPhone. And so it's only later on I realized holy shit, dude, 2 weeks after you started doing this technique, that's when you got the scholarship invite. And the scholarship is what gave you money to get the iPhone. So even though I had the iPhone physically a year later, 2 weeks after doing this technique, my world had already shifted to getting me the iPhone. And it was a physical shift. It wasn't some spiritual shift where I wake up feeling good. No, it was a physical shift. It's kind of like Neville with his Barbados story. He did the technique, and the next day he got a call saying he would be sailing. But he wasn't sailing for another 21 days. He still had a month in Barbados left, but he already knew he was sailing. So it's for me, okay, I was going to wait a year for me to get the phone physically, but I had already started sailing towards it physically. When I was saying, I feel if you do this technique, you should get results in a few weeks, I feel most people would start to feel I'm telling them that they'll get their desire within a few weeks. But what I mean is within a few weeks, your life should have already started physically changing. A few weeks later, maybe you get a job offer or you meet a new person, and then that person introduces you to this person and that person. Because I look at manifestation like dominoes. When dominoes are stacked up next to each other, when one falls, the other one falls, and so on. So in externalizing your desire, you go through these experiences. One domino falls and the other one falls. But what I think is, if you do this technique seriously, the first domino should fall within a few weeks. I think that's what Neville is trying to say. Within a few weeks of you persisting in this, you should already start to get results. As in, you should already start to see your life moving and changing. And even if you don't fully understand the picture then, it'll make sense when it all unfolds, but your life started actually shifting within a few weeks of you doing the technique, and the first domino fell and stuff like that. I mean, it's kind of like that lady in the Law and the Promise. She fell asleep saying, "Isn't it wonderful, right?" And then she met a man that she knew before, and she didn't think anything of it. But then a month later, she gets a check because that man went to another city and met the person that then gave this lady money. Her life had already started shifting. She met this person, so events had already started happening. Although for her, it took her 2 months of doing this for the events to start happening. But she persisted, and 2 months is not a long time. That's a lot quicker than most people get their desires these days, if they even get them. So it's like, that's what I mean when I say like your life will start to, like, it will happen within a few weeks. Like, I don't literally mean you will actually have the thing within a few weeks, but like generally within a few weeks, your life should have already started shifting, because things shouldn't take a long time if you're doing the technique. That's the whole purpose of you having this power. And I was just thinking, even the story I was reading from The Power of Awareness, the kid that wanted a dog. And then every night he went to bed petting his dog. And then about 5 weeks later, about a month later, some competition happened and he won and he got his dog. So he got his dog maybe 6 weeks later. But within a month, things had already shifted. The competition had already been put in display. And so I think also back to Canada, when every night for a month I fell asleep in Canada. And then 6 weeks later, from me starting this thing, that's when it opened up. So it's like every night for a month I was sleeping in it, and within a month things actually started shifting. And then 2 weeks later I got the notification that we're opening up, because I realized they don't just make these decisions quickly. Like, somebody doesn't just wake up today and be like, yo, let's open up the Canadian border. It's not like they have to have meetings about these things. They have to make decisions. They have to come to a vote. So these things had probably started happening maybe 2 weeks before I got the email. And 2 weeks before I got the email was 1 month into me falling asleep in Canada. So again, within a month, my world started changing with the iPhone. Within 2 weeks, my world started changing. I'm testing it out again, and I want to see how long it takes this time. So I have a calendar every night when I go to bed and I do the technique. I wake up the next morning and I write day 2, day 3, day 4. So I'm counting the days and I'm seeing how long it's going to take for my world to actually start to shift. Neville says just do it and be surprised at how quickly your world changes, So just test it out on more things and see what happens.
That sick beat is also his. And I will see if there's any links he can provide if anyone would like to bless him as a thank you. Thank you.